The presentation that I have for you is actually the work of research that we have Mr. Koduri right here doing with me at the University of North Texas. I want to acknowledge the work that we have, the help we have had from Jim Sword and Nick Tompkins, who is back there videotaping. The Parkinson project that we are undertaking started when we learned about the work of a fellow called Athanasios Sanas at Oxford University in the United Kingdom. And as it turned out, he actually was following the guide of his advisor, Max Little. Max Little has a TED, T-E-D, website program that you should look at on Parkinson. He did in this study an analysis of phonation. Phonation is doing right? I'm sure I scared you. But all of you know that this is precisely the exaggeration that we're talking about with regard to the voicing. We decided that this sounded very interesting. In particular, we have been teaching a course on speech recognition, and it was very close to the ideas that he was espousing. The interesting part, medically, is that it appeared that voice distress happens early in the Parkinson cycle. At least that's the claim. And therefore, you can, if you identify the early occurrence of that distress, you can actually try to start the treatment early. We did a variation on this work of Dr. Sanas. The part of the idea was also trying to assess the severity. When we analyzed the work of Dr. Sanas, we found a variation that we thought it was a little bit suspicious with regard to the data. The variation implied that in time he took 3 samples of voicing 3 months apart. And the variation was questionable with regard to whether it increased or decreased and whether it was medicated due to medication or other natural changes. So we decided we would do the work, try to reproduce it. Now this variation, we try to consider it, and if you take an initial measurement and you take a second measurement and you take a third measurement, in the third measurement you actually find that there is variation due to dopamine, to natural variability, as time you're 9 months older, and the measuring error. Now, the interesting work with Sanas was that he correlated with UPDRS. You heard of a different scale, the 5-level scale. UPDRS is more complex, partially subjective, partially objective. It's a long story, so if you're interested in UPDRS, we can talk about it in more detail. Now, one more thing that Sanas did that was very interesting is with regard to the fact that he did the data collection over a telephone line. How convenient. He got thousands of samples. Now, a telephone line, you know, at best, without any poor did, quite frankly, one of the best statistical jobs that I've ever seen. So the mathematics were flawless, the data collection maybe not as good. So I had different attempts to do that, the same reproduce the work, and then we came up with additional questions. We said, well, if the signal analysis of the phonation needs to be checked out, why don't we try to find other signs of Parkinson that we could evaluate and then see if they correlate with the values that we get in the speech analysis. So we came up with 2 exercises involving fingers. Now the 2 exercises were similar, but interestingly enough, they yield quite different results. Not contrary to each other, but they were different in the nature of what we were measuring. We found the most fascinating thing is that we found that we could actually have a Markov model. A Markov model is a mathematical model. With regard to, this is the work of Koduri, we found that we could consider the transition of 2 fingers tapping on the keyboard. We call correct transitions when there was alternation. If the tapping was repeated on the same key, we call it incorrect. So we had 2 states. One was the correct keying, and the other was the incorrect keying. And we analyzed all 4 probabilities, and the interesting thing is the probability of remaining in the correct state for a duration of time was most best correlated with the fact that it became a linear one, and we actually spent some time doing an analysis. Now this is the values obtained with the tapping, alternating tapping. It has been done before. Repeated alternating frequency tapping. RAF is the technical name for it. It had been done also with music, keyboard. The linearity is expected. Here we have the rate, and here we have the equivalent to the time duration that will remain the correct state. This is called a dendrogram, which is a statistical method, a pattern recognition, that separates the Parkinsonian subjects with the control group. Interestingly enough, we did it with left hand, right hand, and here are the results. We found that there was quite a difference between the 2 hands. One of the difficulties that Koduri is going to fix is that the vertical scale is not the same in both pictures, but he'll take care of that. This is a comparison between the right hand and the left hand, and you can see the difference. This is an interesting topic to study. And we did not select which Parkinsonians were in one way or the other. These are the similarity studies that allowed us to compare the study in finger tapping eventually correlated with the phonation study. We had another idea, and we have the instrument here. Do you want to show you? This is actually with the help of Nick Tompkins. We put together an accelerometer that we put on top of the nail in the in the index finger, and we measure the acceleration and the travel time. And we actually, this is the tapping of the, as recorded by a laptop. There is a data conversion. There are some interesting electronics, and now this is the interesting part. We're in the process of doing this work right now. We won't be finished until January, and I will be finished in the next few seconds. The angle that straight line was going up is an interesting feature. We have the plans to correlate the finger tapping with each other, the thumb and the index, with the alternating finger tapping on your keyboard, with the voice analysis. We have done 3 tests, and we're going to study the changes in the parameters that will tell us the variability of both an ordinary person matched to the Parkinson group. So this is the final test, correlation and validation. And this is my presentation with research in progress, and I thank my students and Jean. Thank you very much.